Thank you very much, Ms. Nome, and we now proceed to Dr. Brad Wenstrup of Ohio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I applaud all the work that you're doing. I have done some temporary duty at Fort Lewis dealing with suicide prevention. I'm familiar with the difficulties in trying to assess and try to prevent and then to try to treat, and I know that your assignment is difficult. Of course, we're always looking for numbers. We're always looking to try and figure out where the common trends, and you've identified some of them already, such as legal, financial, and domestic problems. Do we compare, I know you compare with the civilian numbers, but do we compare, say, 30 and under of the civilian population? As you mentioned, so many within the military are 29 or younger. So I was curious if we compared in that way and what kind of results you've seen there. Is it pretty similar to the general population?
Yes, sir. I think Dr. Reed addressed some of that as well. We see a lot of similarities between ourselves and suicide in the civilian population. It's pretty much a mirroring demographic with young white male with these types of issues and problems. I think there are some studies they've done with college students that look very similar to our population.
So we can't really conclude that this trend within the military is military specific, that may not be the issue. It may be more societal rather than just military. Right, Dr. Reed?
Great point, and I think that's one thing we really have to tease out. The rate of suicide for 18 to 25-year-olds in the general population is high. It's the third leading cause of death. So the question really is, what percent of the suicides that are happening in the military in the same demographic are similar in terms of their cause to the general population, or perhaps unique to the experience of being in the military? When you look at another group, the same age group, the college-age student, this population has half the suicide rate of their peers that don't attend college. So what is it that's protecting college-age 18 to 25-year-olds that's not protecting the general population or perhaps some of those that are in the military? These are questions we really have to look at, because it may not be a military-specific explanation for the 18 to 25-year-old suicide rate. It may be more of the fact that these are young people whose brains are still developing. Problem-solving skills, coping skills, impulsivity are factors that affect all 18 to 25-year-olds, and maybe we need to look from that perspective as well as we try to address the problem.
Thank you. And so it seems, as often is the case with military research, it tends to benefit the entire country, and I think that this will be a case of that. The preventive side is often very difficult. Obviously, I look at like the ACE program with the Army. Is there any way of measuring how many saves we've had?
Sir, we were just starting to do that now. Earlier example, we looked at one infantry division where they've done now 24 months of resiliency training, and we were tracking the gestures, attempts, and ideations, and to see how many peer-to-peer interventions there were. And the initial results is while the gestures have remained generally about the same, the number of peer-to-peer interventions has increased dramatically, and therefore the number of cases having to go to behavioral health have really reduced. But we're in the really early stages of doing that, and we're trying to link that training to outcome.
I think I'd just like to add on to that, and that is, sir, that we can't exclusively look at just suicides and suicide-related behavior. I think one of the good things that's happening as we've all investing in our behavioral health specialists and embedding those people in our units, we look at all of the other things that are related to stress and see how that is being managed. Our incidence of alcohol abuse going down. Domestic abuse was mentioned earlier. So there's these other areas that are also related to stress, to where we see the benefits of when we get the professionals in there, we reduce the stigma. When it's a total leadership down to the deck plate level, we see success in these areas and start to see the needles move, I think, in terms of the other behaviors that might be associated with stress, which might be indicators of a potential suicide-related behavior later on or an event.
I appreciate you taking on this difficult challenge, and thank you for being here today. I yield back my time.